Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Well, hello, everyone, and happy Wednesday to you. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you are staying safe and staying well as we continue to watch Election Watch and see if we have news, hopefully sooner rather than later, on who will be the next president of the United States. Will President Donald Trump reign supreme, or will we see Vice President Joe Biden take over? So all eyes on that. But let me tell you something, and this is something you want to be paying attention to, because yesterday the financial markets obviously very, very positive territory as we were getting closer to having closure on this discussion. And today the market roared. It actually was fantastic. Those of you who tuned in earlier to my stream know that at some point this morning, the market actually Dow reached over 800 points. Well, today the energy in the financial markets continued because the Dow closed up 369 points. The NASDAQ, my friends, listen to this. The NASDAQ closed up 430 points. This is huge. The S&P 500 jumped also 2% for those of you invested in the S&P 500 as we continue to see news on Election Watch. Now, you might be wondering, well, we don't have a president and we don't have our presidential decision, so why is the stock market doing so well? Well, I want to share with you because this is really interesting news. So you might be wondering, well, you talked about the stock market needing closure and therefore the market performed well. Investors like to have security. Well, Wharton professor of finance Jeremy Siegel told CNBC today that a divided government scenario would actually be positive for both the stock market and the U.S. economy. The professor also said that a Republican Senate leader, Mitch McConnell, who, as you know, got reelected, would work better with Joe Biden if he were to be elected to pass legislation than in the case of President Donald Trump. Now, whether that's going to happen or not, because the election's not over, we don't know. But in a divided government scenario, the U.S. actually might get a stimulus package. This is what the professor is saying. So let's hope. Let's see what happens. We'll know more by the end of the week. But that's really what he thinks is why the stock market is doing very well. On other matters, Jonathan Ponsanio from a Forbes staff reporter wrote that though the election results are still very much up in the air, technology stocks are surging today because of the growing prospects of a Republican-controlled Senate and a White House victory for former Vice President Joe Biden, again squashing fears of a broad-based regulation that could have crippled tech giants such as Facebook, Alphabet, which is Google, and Amazon. So, diversification, right, in your portfolio as well as in the government. Now, on other news we want to talk about is you may have seen here in the state of California, Proposition 22 was passed. And this allows Uber and Lyft drivers to continue to be labeled as independent contractors. Now, why this is meaningful for those of you out of state is because this sets precedence. There could be other cases you might see in your city and your state that this is taking place as well. We'll see if this continues after the pandemic, but that's where we are at currently. Now, without further ado, today is special because today is Wednesday, and Wednesdays mean it's the Winnie Sun Tweetchat. And for those of you who joined us on Twitter earlier, we had a very large discussion about travel during the pandemic, travel as you're planning through the holidays and travel beyond. And that means that we had two experts joining us. And today is particularly special because these two experts are my personal friends, but also happen to be true leaders in the travel space when it comes to points and miles. And so you might know them very well, but I'm going to do something fun today because, it's a special day. It's a different day. We have a lot more people joining us than normal. And so we want to talk about how do we mix it up. And I thought, why not have some fun? I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you. So Jason, let's start with you, Jason Steele. So great to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to see you, Winnie.
Well, it's always a treat to have you here. I know you are knee deep in planning that wonderful conference I love attending to, which is CardCon, right? Coming out. Jason, you can tell us, when's your conference coming out from now?
Yeah, well, CardCon's going to be online this year. It was supposed to be here in Denver, but that didn't happen. So it'll be November 16th through the 19th. It's an online event, 3 hours a day.
I know, and I know you have a lot of experts coming in. I know that's really very popular industry conference. So thanks so much for making the time. Jason, do you mind introducing our next guest?
Oh, sure. I am thrilled to, excuse me, I'm thrilled to introduce my lovely friend, Bethany Walsh. She writes for the blog Bougie Miles. And my running joke with Bethany is that she always is dressed in a ball gown, because the last 2 or 3 times I saw her were at various award shows and things like that. But I don't think that's really true.
I do try.
I haven't seen Bethany in a gown yet, but I have her seen in studios, and she always dresses to a T. All right, Bethany, your turn to introduce the one and only Mr. Jason Steele.
So I don't know if Jason remembers this, but the first time I met him, I went up to him and I looked at his name tag and it said Jason Steele, and I was like, oh, I know you. Because, I was just an up-and-comer at this point, and he's like the man in credit cards and award travel. And he was like, from where? And I was like, well, from everywhere. He is, I think, the most prolific freelance writer in miles, points, credit card travel out there. And so, yeah, he really needs no introduction.
Yes. So those of you who know the community at the Points Guy as well as money.com, Jason Steele is definitely very, very well known. Now I'm going to tell you, I will just say these two, they are simply one of the two of some of the best human beings you'll meet. So wonderful people to get to know, and people that I trust and I consider dear friends. And I'm going to tell you, great people to have on speed dial, especially when you're looking to book your vacation, right? Let's talk about this. So today we had a discussion about travel during the holidays. And so certainly that's changed for a lot of people. And some people might think, well, it's a kind of ill-timed, right? The day after the election. And I would argue that to be not the case at all, because I think so many of us, with the election, you're either really happy or you're really disappointed. Like, it's kind of very polarizing. And I feel like for 1 hour today, it was great because we were able to come together as friends. We had people join us from all over the world, literally all over the world, in this discussion of our commonality, which is everybody on today's discussion loves to travel. And although we might not be able to travel as much as we normally do, I think all three of us included, one thing that we can do is start to fill up our travel bucket, right? Our travel list, our bucket list, and also our points and miles. So I would love to share some of the questions. For those of you who weren't on our tweet chat earlier today, this is what we do. Almost every Wednesday, we come together at 11 a.m. Pacific or 2 p.m. Eastern, depending on where you're joining us from. Then you just jump on Twitter, you follow hashtag Winnie Sun, and we have a discussion. And we throw out about 13 questions out, and everybody from all walks of life, from wherever you are, can answer those questions. And we have 2 expert leaders. So Bethany today, Jason today, as well as Mark Osterman, who's living it up probably at In-N-Out in Southern California, isn't here with us. But these 2 leaders, this is what we do. And so it gives you a chance to actually speak to them, because obviously they're very renowned. They both have great, very popular blogs and content. But sometimes you just like, I just wish I could talk to Bethany because I feel like I know her and I read her stuff. This is your chance to have discussions with her on, the tweet chat. And Jason Steele's of the world are very hard to come by, right? So let's do this. We're going to share some of the questions that we went over today. And we would love to let them go into more detail about how they feel about this topic. Let's start with our first question. What do you think, Curtis?
So,
Jason, let's get to you.
Sorry. Okay, the holidays are right around the corner. Can you believe it? Are your holiday travel locations usually consistent, or do you tend to select different locations? Pre-pandemic, where did you plan to spend your 2020 holidays?
Okay, so Mark Osterman, who joined us as well from Miles and Memories, he said, my holiday travel plans are usually vanilla. I either go to my parents in Florida, my sisters in Ohio, or stay home depending on the year. We rotate. And I think a lot of us can relate to this. Jason, I think more people are doing road trips now than ever, right? Because there was a lot of discussions about rental cars and whatnot. What do your holidays look like in your family?
Well, I haven't actually traveled outside of Colorado since March, when I returned home in a hurry from an overseas trip. So we're actually looking forward to perhaps taking our first real out-of-state trip this holidays. It's not a very original destination for us. We're going to go down to Fort Lauderdale and visit the Florida Keys. I would love to see my grandmother, who's approaching 100 years old, in the Fort Lauderdale area. And then we have a condo that I booked with my Chase points actually on Marathon Key, which is very, I guess, low key, to excuse the pun, compared to Key West. But they have incredible seafood there, and almost every accommodation there has its own dock. So we're thinking about actually just renting a boat. And if we go snorkeling or just touring around the area on a little rental boat, that's pretty socially distanced stuff. And if we have some great seafood on a dock outside, I think we can do that safely as well.
That's amazing. So you're driving?
Well, we're going to fly from Denver to Fort Lauderdale. But once we get there, certainly we're renting a car to visit my grandmother and to drive down to the Keys. Sometimes I call the Florida Keys a road trip to the Caribbean because so much of the road is basically just a bridge over the ocean. It's quite spectacular.
I love that. Now, have you flown during this pandemic?
Well, yes and no. So I have not booked any commercial airline flights, but every now and then I rent myself a Cessna and fly over Denver a little bit. One of the things you could do when you have a pilot's license.
So are you flying your family yourself for this trip?
No, we will be flying. We're flying Southwest Airlines down to Fort Lauderdale. We've given a lot of thought, but at this point, we feel like we can do that safely now that mask usage is at 100% among airline passengers. I know a lot of people in the airline industry who are telling me that cases of COVID transmission on airplanes is rare to non-existent. So my wife is an infectious disease specialist of all things, and if she's willing to go along with it, I'm okay with it too.
I didn't know that's what your wife specializes in. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Bethany, let's talk about your holiday. What's your holiday travel look like?
So I think I'm doing something a little crazy this year, or at least trying to. I'm trying to go to the Maldives because it's one of the places that has the strongest restrictions, and it seems that they're taking things very seriously. But we will see if that happens, just because we have to be so fluid since things are changing every single day. Flights change every day. If I can't get there on like a cool first class product that I haven't tried yet, then it's not as much fun, and they're limiting those. So I think we're going to play it by ear, but that's what I'm trying to do.
Wow. Well, I'm hoping that'll work out for you. I know you've done some traveling now, and you said you have to stay very fluid and very flexible, right, during traveling during the pandemic. Yeah, I've heard about a lot of people getting their flights canceled or changed and all sorts of things. I actually have a good friend of mine. One of my best friends just flew with her and her family to Hawaii last week. And she says she said it was a nerve-wracking experience. So yes, everybody had to wear masks on the plane, but she says on the plane, like 50% of the people weren't being careful, and so it stressed her out. But certainly, I mean that trip sounds amazing, Bethany. I mean, I think many people will be like, sign me up.
Yeah, let's see if it happens. Definitely.
Maldives are a little bit more exotic than the Florida Keys. Just a little.
Maybe just a little bit. Well, let's have some fun. Let's talk a little bit about this. If we could just digress a little bit. So for a lot of people who are watching and thinking, wow, travel sounds amazing. But I know a lot of people in our tweet chat were saying, well, right now I'm just not traveling. I'm thinking about just doing road trips and whatnot. What can people do to plan ahead? Obviously, this pandemic isn't going to be here forever. At some point, we'll be able to resume our normal travel life, right? What are some smart techniques you think that people should be thinking of right now as they accumulate points and miles? And Bethany, I'll let you start, and I'll let Jason take over from there.
Okay, so something I've been doing when booking travel is, well, two things. One, I've been trying to make sure that it's as flexible as possible so that if I do need to cancel, like day of, or not day of, but like that week, I can do so. The other thing is that I'm taking advantage of the really cheap cash rates while they're here and trying to rack up loyalty points, whether that be from an airline or a hotel, because right now they're running a lot of promotions and they also have really cheap cash rates. So it's a really good time to stock up your miles and points balances for later on when the prices go back to normal.
Okay, great tip. All right, Jason, what about you? What's one thing that you're doing?
Well, I love Bethany's advice, but from my perspective, I canceled just like a dozen trips this year, and all those points and miles came back to my account. And of course, I'm still earning points and miles for my regular spending and activities. So now I just have this incredible balance of points and miles. So it seems like I should be using them. On the other hand, I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm thinking, early summer might be the first opportunity to take a really, nice post-COVID trip, hopefully. By fall of next year, I think we'll be in good shape. But between now and then, every single trip I book is with the knowledge that, with a few clicks of a button, I can cancel it all, get all my points, miles, and dollars back. And, my joke is it's like catch and release fishing. I'll book a trip to Hawaii and then cancel it. I'll find a great trip to Puerto Rico and then cancel it. When the future of the pandemic doesn't turn out as rosy as we hoped earlier this year.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's really smart. And actually, I've been doing the same thing. I actually booked a whole bunch of hotel rooms to destinations that normally I have a hard time booking, especially on points. I just booked them in end of 2021 and also into 2022 with the feeling that like I could always cancel, but hopefully I'll be able to do some of those trips. That would be ideal. All right, let's take another question, Curtis.
So I'll ask this one, Bethany. Do booking trips ring true no matter what? How does the pandemic affect the best time to book flights and stays as the holidays approach? And when will you be making your holiday bookings? And why does that strategy work for you?
Yeah, Bethany, do tell us.
So very interestingly, I was actually supposed to fly to Vegas today, and the flights got changed 4 separate times. And I ended up giving up because first I was on a morning flight, and then they switched me to a red eye, and then they canceled the red eye, and then they switched us back to a morning flight. And I said, you know what? This is way too stressful to be dealing with right now. So for me, from now on, or at least until flight schedules resume to normal, I am looking at like 2 weeks out. So what most people would consider last week bookings. And I'm hoping that cuts down on the time that it takes to plan trips, and that it just gives me more efficiency, because obviously we all have to work, right? So we don't have time to plan these amazing trips and then have them get canceled multiple times. So it's not, for me, the pandemic has affected it hugely, where I'm usually like, well, I don't mind booking a flight 2 years ahead of time, if I can, or 18 months out or whatever. But now I'm like, no, 2 weeks. And that's it.
That's it. Okay. Well, Lena, who's watching, she says she's sticking to car travel. So Jason, I would let her give a sense of what you're doing.
Yeah. So we have taken some great road trips. We took a day trip to the town of Estes Park, which is, Rocky Mountain National Park. That was, of course, before the recent forest fires. And we did an overnight trip to the town of Alamosa in southern Colorado, where we could see the great sand dunes. They have like a reptile park there and some other tourist attractions. I think, maybe one of our big mistakes on that trip was we failed to really research the dining options. And when we got to this small town, a lot of them were indoors, which we didn't want to do. We should have spent a little more time actually planning out our meals and being less spontaneous so that we could, eat outside more safely.
Oh, interesting. So what did you end up doing, Jason? Did you end up doing takeout, or how did you fare?
We did some takeout. A couple times we were able to find the corner of a mostly empty restaurant. We felt okay there. But if we had it to do over again, I think we would have been a little bit more, planned everything out a little more precisely in a way that maybe wasn't necessary before the pandemic.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are changing during the pandemic. I think like what you said does make a lot of sense. You do have to do a lot more planning. And there's certain areas here in Southern California that are more rural that we can drive to and visit. However, they're actually even putting out notices that they recommend that tourists not visit their supermarkets even. And they're recommending that you bring your own groceries because they don't want you intermingling with their community. And so one of the things I have found is some of my team members who have traveled have said they've been renting vacation homes, or they've been renting hotel rooms that don't require them to walk through a lobby. Jason, have you experienced that yet?
Yeah, I mean, what a crazy world we live in where vacation destinations are telling you to come but not spend money. I mean, they've spent the last 100 years telling you to spend money when you arrive. But seriously, though, I mean, we originally had a hotel booked in Marathon Key, and that hotel, which had been part of Hyatt, one day was not part of Hyatt. So that was actually an opportunity for us to find a vacation rental. We were able to book it with our Chase points because the Chase Ultimate Rewards portal does have some vacation rental properties on it, and it does have its own kitchen, its own washer dryer, and it's actually detached from other units. It's on stilts. So we're really looking forward to that, so that if we don't feel like eating out, or certainly we rarely feel like eating breakfast out with the kids, we can get some groceries and make our own breakfast.
You know, Jason, I gotta say, I love when you give me these travel tips for the family, because some of my best trips have been done thanks to your recommendation. My kids have to thank Uncle Jason for sure. All right, let's take another question. Let's see what we got. All right, I'll read this. How will you be paying for your holiday travels? Are you spending points, collecting credit card points, or do you pay cash? What's your strategy? How has 2020 changed it? Now, I know Bethany answered this originally earlier, so Jason, I'm going to throw this over to you. Let's talk about that. So, like 2020 certainly changes everything, right? Are you right now in more accumulation mode, or are you more in spending mode?
Well, I'm definitely accumulating because I'm still spending what I used to. If anything, maybe I've spent a little bit more because I've been doing projects around the house and things like that. But so I'm earning these miles. But of course, I've canceled a dozen trips this year, all sorts of conventions and business trips and fun trips, and so my point balances just keep going up and up and up. So my normal philosophy is kind of crazy. I don't spend a dime unless I have to, but that's kind of even doubled down. Whereas, I mean, obviously at this rate where I'm barely traveling, I'll have enough points and miles for the rest of my life. But hopefully next year I'll start traveling more often. It'll still take me a year or two to spend all the points and miles that I've earned this year while not spending any and canceling almost all my trips. So I'm just doubling down on points and miles. There's no reason I'm going to have to pay for anything out of pocket that I can buy with points and miles for a long time.
So Jason, one thing that, you and I talked about, I thought was really powerful is like right now, because of the pandemic, a lot of the credit card companies are looking like they're putting their feet to the pedal. They're letting us actually earn points in more diverse ways, and and giving us opportunities to really save those points and spend those points as well. Jason, have you found that to be the case? Do you feel like this is going to be something that's just going to go through the pandemic? Will we see other unique opportunities? Like for example, Chase has some cards that offer 5 times points per dollar for groceries, right? Amex has different benefits as well. Do you think this will continue?
Yeah, I do. It was a really roller coaster year for someone in the credit card industry. It began normally, but then, by spring, the industry pretty much froze. They weren't approving new applications. They weren't introducing new cards. There was no promotions. And people like me who rely on the credit card industry to make a living got pretty scared. But by late summer, early fall, we started seeing all these new offers. We started seeing a lot of adaptations like the one you mentioned. Chase has announced that they're going to continue to offer some of these non-travel opportunities to earn rewards and spend rewards on their travel rewards cards, which is great. And I think what I'm most looking forward to, and I'm predicting though, is going to be a short window of time between when we have a vaccine or when we know that life is going to return to normal and when everyone starts booking up all the remaining award space. So when that window comes, I'm hoping to book a pretty fantastic trip with my points and miles and something that might not have been readily available before.
I love that. Okay, Bethany, we know that you are like, I call you like a Yoda when it comes to, bless you, booking these incredible trips. I know you've been saying that you've been spending cash because a lot of travel is really reasonable. Do you have a strategy this year? Are you looking to accumulate a ton of points? And if so, what are those strategies?
So I should note that while I am spending cash on these bookings, I am spending cash that I got from cashing in points. So I don't know if that makes it a little bit better that all I do is spend money. But yeah, so that's one of my strategies is kind of to just sort of figure out like, what am I going to need in the future? I try to always make sure that I have one full luxury hotel stay with each brand in points in my accounts. And then I always leave that there or replenish it after I use it. And then I'm focusing on flexible currencies, which is basically transferable points with banks. So like your Chase points, your American, your Amex membership rewards points. Those are what we consider flexible currencies, meaning you can transfer them to travel partners so that you're not locked into one brand. And that's pretty much what I'm focusing on. Also trying to take advantage of all of these credits that they're throwing at us in order to entice us to keep our cards or to keep signing up for more cards. And I'm doing pretty well with those, actually. I think we all are.
Yeah, I think you've done a brilliant job. I will say that I know you did a brilliant job because one thing you did was, on spend that you normally do, just being really strategic. I know you got a new laptop that you needed anyway, but you're really smart about making sure to do that during that, promotional window. I think that's why, we got to read what you write, because that's the stuff that will really get us excited. So those of you who are watching and thinking, what are they talking about? Because this sounds exciting. This is really sort of really smart to really learn about how to utilize points and miles so that you can fund those travel trips to the future. But as a reminder, this only works and it should only be something you engage in if you're able to pay your credit cards in full every single month without exception. And both these experts do that. And so, hundreds of thousands of people read their content because of that, learning these strategies and learning things, to get ahead. Let's take another question. You know what? Looks like we don't have a prepared question. So I will give you a question because this is something I would love to learn. So obviously, a lot of people have status from before, right? Some people have airline status, some people had hotel status, but now that they're not traveling, what are some strategies for people to extend or continue, or is it something they should just let lapse? Jason, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I've had a few people reach out to me lately and ask me about extending their airline status and things like that, and I have to remind them to double check because a lot of companies have actually automatically done that. I was fortunately enough to be included in an offer that gave me American Airlines status last year. It would have expired, but they just extended it through 21, and I'm a happy guy. My Southwest Companion Pass got extended through, I think, mid next year. Same with my Hyatt status. So I'm kind of laying low on that because if your status has been extended through 21 already, you're really not doing a whole lot now. There's benefit into accumulating that status right now. So I'm going to wait till 21. I'm going to wait for travel to resume, and then I'm going to try to extend my status into 22 with a lot of these programs.
Yeah, it's a bummer, because I remember I actually took a trip to Taipei, and that gave me executive platinum status, and I never really got to use it. Besides, I did one trip to New York with my team, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to be able to use it for the next year at least, and probably longer, and it came to a halt. So, Bethany, what are you doing? I know you're the queen of status. So what are some techniques that you're doing? Obviously, you're doing a little bit of travel, but not to the extent that you used to.
Right. So like Jason said, I am definitely taking advantage of the fact that everything is pushed out until 2022, really. It's like toward the beginning of 2022 that we even have to start worrying about requalifying and everything. But yeah, I'm definitely going to take 2021 to up my game. I'm going to strategically plan basically all the cheapest ways to maximize everything. And by the end of it, hopefully I'll end up with 1 or 2 top tier elite airline statuses and 1 or 2 hotel statuses. And then after that, really, like, how much can you travel to even get the most out of that spend that you did to acquire it,
Right. Well, good to know. This is great information. For those of you who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. And we see all of you. Get it, Lena, all of our friends here. These are 2 experts that you'll definitely want to follow. Before we let you go, Jason, I'd love for you to share with us what's the best way to stay in touch, learn about your new content, obviously follow you, because, the great thing about these 2 individuals, you literally want to follow their their content every week because it refreshes constantly. It's so much good information. It's not something you want to put on pause and sort of revisit once a year. Jason, where can we follow you?
Well, I'm now the director of credit card content for money.com. So if you go to money.com and click on credit cards, you'll see my content there. And of course, on Twitter, I'm at Real Jason Steele, and that's Steele with an E on the end.
Yes. And Bethany, how about you?
BougieMiles.com and Bougie Miles on YouTube. That's where all the good stuff is happening as soon as this lighting gets fixed. and yeah, I'm really excited about it. So yeah, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out the site and just ignore all the sounds coming from my office.
Yeah, she has a really fun YouTube show, and she has a lot of travel experts come on her show and share information. And so you'll want to definitely check her on YouTube, give her a subscribe, right? As my 7-year-old son will say, touch the subscribe button and make sure you keep watching.
Exactly.
But yes, absolutely. Definitely two wonderful people to get to know well, because they really know their stuff. And not only that, they're very, very generous in the knowledge that they share. So for those of you, happy travel planning to you. You know, you might not be able to travel. I'm in that boat too. I wish I could travel more than I am right now, but that doesn't keep me from making my next travel plans. And maybe you're going to be like Bethany and Jason and have something special for the holidays and beyond. I can't wait to see where life takes you next. Do me a favor. Next time you go on vacation, snap a photo, tag me on it, and post it on social media. I'd love to see where you're going next. Thank you so much, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll see you again tomorrow, because tomorrow we, again, have a lot of information to keep you updated on this election and, of course, how your money's doing. Take care now.